emails with him, and he says, yes, I've talked to Chris twice. She gave me the paperwork.
Okay, we're on item number 14, report by agency secretary Brian Kelly. We're going to also have Brian cover item 22. You're up, Secretary Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to start by recapping 16 resolutions of necessity that I have. Number one, no. Just a quick update on some of the activities of the agency, Mr. Chairman. First, I'm happy to announce that effective January 13th, we'll be bringing in some expertise into the agency on passenger rail policy issues. We have hired Chad Edison, who comes to us from the Federal Railroad Administration, and he's bringing much needed expertise into the agency into that area. He starts with us on January 13th, so I'm happy to announce that. Secondly, as you all know, we've commenced a external review of Caltrans earlier in the year. That work is ongoing with a group called SSTI. We have meetings with the SSTI next week, and our report, the report coming out of SSTI is scheduled to be coming forward in January. So that's on schedule. I know also that item 22, which I will mix for purposes of time into this presentation, is on the CTIP process, which is the work group we put together to work on transportation issues. We have a meeting of that work group next week on the 18th. We are going to be discussing a transportation vision document that we've worked with at the agency level with input from both department and commission staff. The pillars of our vision here are elements like preservation, innovation, integration, reform, and funding are sort of the big ticket items that we're looking at. As we are looking at some of the funding issues, and we're also heading into the governor's budget proposal on January 10th, there is some interaction between the activities of CTIP and the budget process, and therefore we'll likely be running the CTIP process into 2014. We were originally hoping to come forward with more sooner, but I think there's some matters that we have to coordinate with the budget process, and we also need to be advised by the work of the Freight Advisory Committee, and much of that work's coming forward, which Commissioner Inman mentioned, in 2014. So there's going to be need to work on that further into the new year. That's sort of the sum and substance of my report and our activities to date. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll move on to number 15. Malcolm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Let me first begin by extending my congratulations to RCTC for the successful ceremonial kickoff for the 91 this morning, and I know it was as good a turnout as I think we could have expected and a great project, so I appreciate the leadership from RCTC and all the hard work that went into it. Also, recently on November 16th, we opened up the fourth bore of the Caldecott Tunnel, and the recurring theme at that event was on time and under budget, and more importantly, it's going to bring considerable congestion relief to the motorists in the Bay Area between Alameda and Contra Costa County, but another successful project. And I do want to expand on that slightly. We put together an executive steering committee for that project that consisted of the Caltrans District Director as well as the Executive Director from Contra Costa and Alameda County Transportation Authorities, and I think that was a very effective way to try to manage that project very closely, and I think it yielded very positive results in a successful project as well as schedule-wise and budget-wise. Some other items, in October we released the Caltrans 2013 California State Rail Plan, and I'd like to acknowledge Bill Bronte for his work on that, but also indicate, if you had not known, that Bill was retiring from the Division of Rail and Caltrans, and he will, in the interim, we've asked Bruce Roberts to fill in as the division chief for rail, and we want to make sure we fill that permanently as quick as possible, that position, and continue to manage the rail program very successfully. We continue to work on the California Freight Mobility Plan, which is an update for California from the Goods Movement Action Plans that were done in 2005-2007. It also is consistent with Assembly Bill 14, passed by Bonnie Lowenthal, requires us to have an updated goods movement plan by December 2014. We're on pace for that, and it complies with MAP 21. And let me also acknowledge Commissioner Inman for her participation on the national forum, and also, since I mentioned the rail plan, let me also acknowledge Commissioner Burke's participation in the Amtrak Board of Directors. So I think that on a national stage we're very well represented. As was pointed out, the U.S. DOT has come out with their recently released draft of the network, the National Freight Network, Primary Freight Network. It's capped at 27,000 centerline miles. And we are currently reviewing that. It was released on the 19th. Comments are due back by January 17th. We are fully engaged in reviewing that, and we are also using the 62-member California Freight Advisory Committee to gather input. I would also invite RTPAs or MPOs with an obvious interest in the freight network to provide input and comments to Kome Ajize. My initial look at the overall freight network for California seemed to show that we were well represented, 2,790 centerline miles, almost the entire freeway system in the LA basin, and then also a good representation and coverage in Central Valley and in the Bay Area. But that doesn't mean that there won't be comments back that we think that there were voids that need to be filled, and that's the effort that we're undertaking right now. And we need to be very diligent on that. So we also released the Caltrans Main Street, the Main Street California document that really goes to an emphasis on the California State Highway main streets that go through many communities and the investment to improve multimodal travel conditions and contribute to livable and sustainable communities. And that's been posted on our internet site as of earlier this week. So I invite you to take a look at that. Several agenda items today that I'd like to bring to your attention. I will defer the fanfare on the Buy America issue to either Vince Mamano's and also Gary Gutierrez's update. I will highlight that we have made significant progress on that, and in prior updates, that progress was meetings and draft documents and things like that. Today, I think you will hear that progress means that we have actual utility relocation agreements in hand, and we continue to work through some of the more difficult ones and make progress to get to that and prior to January 1st. So I think we've made significant progress on that. So with that, I will conclude my comments and be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Malcolm. Any questions? Commissioner Inman?
If I could just add one thing as everybody looks at the primary freight network. U.S. DOT was very clear that they were responding to the directions that they were given with 27,000 centerline miles. However, they have also been adamant throughout the process and the work that we've been doing together that they really understand that we all work within a system of systems and that we really shouldn't isolate things, that we should look holistically and multimodal. So I would encourage all of you just to back them up with that comment. I think we're trying to do that with our California Freight Plan, but I think it's important to remind them all. And then they also released the same day a 41,000 mile version, which obviously has a few more miles because they also felt that while they were directed to use 27,000 centerline miles in the size of our nation and the volume and the importance of the supply chain, that we really need to have a few more miles included. So when you look at making your comments, please consider a holistic approach.
Commissioner Singh?
Malcolm, there was an article a few weeks ago about some of the failing sensors, that is loop sensors in the highway system that's impacting mobility. Can you comment on that?
Sure. And one follow-up to Commissioner Inman's comment is why that's so important is I think that it will dictate how some federal dollars are spent in the future, and we want to make sure that we're well represented in that network because of the freight movement through California. Commissioner Simi, yes, thank you for asking that question. ITS elements in general, we struggle to make sure that the operations of all those elements are up to snuff, particularly the counting devices, and the report actually indicated that 67% or somewhere in that range was operable. That certainly is not acceptable statewide. There are areas in the state that we are doing better than others, and there are specific challenges that we're trying to overcome in each of those areas. Within the last week and a half, I was given a summary of the exact status of all the different elements that we have in our inventory and the geographic location and a reasoning behind inoperability for all the ones that were not operating, and again by a geographic distribution. And we're now in the process of putting a plan together to address the inoperability so that we can get back up into the high 80s, low 90% range, which we have typically been at in the past. Well, it's an ongoing struggle. I think we can put a plan together. We've got to identify funding. We usually run out of funding when we're done taking care of bridges and getting into the roads. This is the next priority on the list, but I think we recognize that operational improvements are going to be a priority type project that we need to get to, and therefore the importance of the detection system that we've invested and put out in the network. So I think when we put that action plan together, we'll also identify a timeline for when we'll get to different milestones of rectifying that situation.
Thank you. Any other questions of Malcolm? Okay, thanks, Malcolm. All right, moving on to item number 16, a report from FHWA. Vince?
Since it's been so long, I think I'll walk slow. I was hoping to say good morning, but it's good afternoon. Couple things, just real quick. Victor Mendez, or Deputy Secretary John Picari, is leaving the agency. That was actually announced today. So Victor Mendez, our administrator, has asked to serve as the acting Deputy Secretary of Transportation. So that'll be effective January 1. So that's a big part. I think that's quite a compliment to Victor and the leadership that he has provided in our agency and across all the modes. So that's very exciting news, and obviously he's a big proponent of what we've done here. I want to extend a congratulations to RCTC that Malcolm did earlier today with the groundbreaking, and I know Victor was a big part of that too. That was a big piece of one of the things he wanted to make sure worked through. So. And also, I haven't had a chance to congratulate you on the opening of the Caldecott Tunnel, too, another big project. A lot of tunnels going in here in California since 50 years ago. It's pretty exciting. But our Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Fox, has actually been out here a couple times already this year. He was here with the Strong City, Strong Communities in Fresno, and he was also here for the Caldecott Tunnel, so it was pretty exciting. Malcolm hit the freight network. That's out there. It's on the web. There was an extension. Did the extension, I'm trying to remember, did the extension take us to January 15th, or has it been extended past January?
I think it's January 16th.
Is the extension? Okay.
Includes the extra 30 days.
So that gives you the extension on that. Another couple of leadership things that we see here as Federal Highway that we just kind of want to make you aware of that's going on here in California, and we appreciate. There was a MAP 21 coordination workshop that was held recently up in Sacramento. Had over 150 federal, state, regional, and local transportation agencies, and I want to extend a special thanks to Rachel Falsetti, Barry, and Jermaine Hannon. Jermaine Hannon is the director of. I brought my muscle with me. Matt Schmitz, will you raise your hand too, Matt? So those are our directors. Jermaine is the director of director of program development in our office. So he deals with the planning side, the environment, right away, and air quality. And Matt Schmitz is our director of project delivery. So he has pretty much all the area engineers in our office. So he's been dealing with the Buy America issue that's been going on. So anyway, I want to congratulate you guys on the leadership that was held here. I know the CTC staff was in attendance at that. The notice proposed rulemakings for the performance measures should be coming out at the end of this month, early January. Hopefully that's when they're coming out. So keep an eye out for those, and please give comments. This is an opportunity to influence those. And lastly, the Buy America, a lot of progress on Buy America. Gary Gutierrez, I know, has been fantastic in that. I would say if you're going to pick somebody to represent the rest of the country on how this should be worked, he should be leading that, because California is the one that's making the difference in that area. A lot of the rest of the country wasn't aware it was going to be an issue. And in California, you guys have resolved a lot of these issues in the time that people are learning about issues. So there's still a lot of work to be done. That extension went till the end of December. So there's still a lot of work. We want to strongly encourage the project sponsors and the utility companies to get together and try to come to resolution prior to the end of this month, because the full Buy America MAP 21 requirements kick in after January 1st. And again, I know there's been some issues, some challenges between the differences between Federal Highway, Federal Rail, and Federal Transit Administration. And we've said before, it affects everybody the same. And I think people say, well, it's not affecting FTA the same as it is Federal Highway, not affecting Federal Rail the same. Well, what's the reason it doesn't appear like it's affecting the same is the interpretation that Federal Transit and Federal Rail are having is very similar to what the MAP 21 interpretation has today. So that was their interpretation previously. So I don't anticipate any new guidance or anything like that, any extensions that are going till the end of December, that type of a thing. So it's a little bit of a challenge. I think we're in a good place where we want to be here in California. I think there's a little bit work to be done, but congratulations on the effort. That was a Herculean lift to try and get the accomplishments that you guys have made to this point done. So that is all I had. Do you have anything for me?
Any questions for Vince? Commissioner Dunn.
Thanks, Vince. I'm hearing, just as you reported, everything is going pretty well, but FTA can sort of be a hang up a bit on the utilities. Could you chat a little bit more about that? Is there anything we can do to
Well, I think the
help
difference,
them?
like I said, the challenge, because I think some people have gone to Federal Transit Administration and say you should do the same thing Federal Highway is doing.
Right.
And Federal Transit
That
Administration.
would be logical.
Well, the interpretation the response from Federal Transit has been that our interpretation that we've always had is the same interpretation as MAP 21. So it was a different interpretation that Federal Highway had. And Federal Highway is now interpreting it the same way FTA has always done it and the same way Federal Rail has always done it, because MAP 21 is telling everybody to do it that way. There's a little bit of confusion because I think some of enforcement might have been different as opposed to interpretation. That makes sense?
No.
I don't know that everything has been. You're not allowed to say no. You're supposed to say
I'm
yes,
sorry.
but. So I think
trying to be clear.
I think what has happened is there might possibly have been some enforcement of the law had not been followed through. So I think what we're finding is that everybody is now going to be doing the exact same thing. So rail, highway, and transit all have, with MAP 21, all have the same interpretation. So that's how it's going to be moving forward. So I don't anticipate FTA coming out and saying, we're going to give you till the end of,
Right.
because FTA was in the loop, and so was Federal Rail when Federal Highway, because we had to work through the Secretary's office to make the determination that we made, and FTA and Federal Rail were all at the same table. So they all knew what was coming on to.
Okay, I'll chat with you offline
Okay.
if I hear of anything. That'd be
Okay.
great, thanks.
Questions of Vince? Seeing none, thank you, Vince.
Merry Christmas to you all. Hope you all have a safe
Same
holiday.
to you. Okay, we're going to item number 17. Welcome to the region. We've been here a while.
And we get to keep you for another day or so. Commissioners, good afternoon. Ann Mayer, the Executive Director of the Riverside County Transportation Commission. Welcome to Riverside County, and thank you so much for being here today. And I'd like to express my appreciation to those of you who were able to join us this morning for a pretty exciting event. This has been a big week in Riverside County. Not only did we have the groundbreaking for the 91 this morning, on Monday morning, FTA was in town and we had an event to celebrate the signing of our Small Starts grant agreement for the Paris Valley Line project. So we had a $75 million grant to extend Metrolink 24 miles further into Riverside County. So this has been a very big week for us. We're really excited about it. And although it may be inconvenient and it may have tested your patience as you tried to get here, within 20 miles of this building, we have over $2 billion worth of projects under construction. And that's huge for us, and it's really important for our region. What I mostly wanted to talk about today, though, is other exciting programs that we have coming up, and I think it's certainly timely given that you're going to be talking about the active transportation program in a couple of items. In January, we've got over $150 million that we're allocating for Call for Projects. We've got a variety of projects included, but we're really excited. Bus rapid transit, we've got recreational trails, bicycle trails, pedestrian facilities. So you're seeing a lot of multimodal activity here in Riverside County, and what we're wanting to highlight for you today is an exciting project out in the Coachella Valley. You'll be seeing it in our STIP proposal for the 2014 STIP. I'm very pleased to have with me today Executive Director of the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, Tom Kirk. So Tom's going to give you a tour of a great project out in the Coachella Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Commissioners. I'll make the presentation brief.
Thank you.
Give you a little background on the project and finish up with funding. And for those of you that know a little bit about the Inland Empire, this is a question I have for you. What reaction do you think we get when we go to Sacramento and Washington, D.C., and start talking about sustainable communities and active transportation and this and that? It looks something like this. And the primary reason we get that reaction in Sacramento and Washington, D.C., is they assume that Ann and Ray and me and others from the Inland Empire, all we care about is building these. Subdivisions and subdivisions and freeways and freeways and subdivisions. So I've got a little project I want to talk to you about that I believe is the largest active transportation project not only in this region but in the nation. And it's coming from Riverside County. A little background. You're familiar with these kind of projects, the American River Trail. For those of us in Southern California, the Santa Ana River Trail, pretty cool project.
And
well, it's still a great project.
When are you going to add the river?
Welcome to Southern California. In fact, the irony in this one is I look at that and I see a lot of water. I'm from the desert. And of course, these projects look something like this, a 12-foot wide cycling path. And in my neck of the woods, we call something the Whitewater River, and guess what? There isn't much water in it either, but it is a major drainage path through the Coachella Valley. This is a map showing Palm Springs on the left, the city of Coachella on the right. We've got a few 100,000 people there year-round. We've got 1 million people there this time of year. A cycling path was proposed from Palm Springs to Coachella, and the cycling path was estimated to cost close to $40 million. And it's a small number in the context of transportation, but a huge number for an active transportation project. And the plan said, let's spend 30 or 40 years to assemble the money, find, again, state and federal grants, find an organization like ours, a regional MPO or COG certainly, to get the job done. And the reason it was going to take 30 to 40 years to even start the project is it would take that long to assemble the money at $300,000 a time for this grant or that grant. Well, a few of us got together and said, what if we found the money up front and we treated this more like a major piece of infrastructure, not just a recreational trail project? We thought we'd turn an ambitious project into one that is transformational for the Coachella Valley, this region, and hopefully this state and this country. And we suggested some changes. What if it was more than just a bike trail? What if it accommodated those fancy things called golf carts? We have a lot of them in the Coachella Valley.
Yes, you do.
Or even neighborhood electric vehicles. And we have a few of those in the Coachella Valley, and a few more every year. What if the trail wasn't just 12 feet wide, but was 16 feet wide? And it was a mixed trail that allowed for low-speed electric vehicles and bikes, and a separate trail for pedestrians and joggers. And we do a little bit of this in the desert already on the street system, the Class 2 environment of mixing bike lanes with golf cart lanes. But what if this trail was mostly or entirely grade separated? And this commission knows the importance of separating grades. What if it not only went under major arterials, but over them? And we spent the money to build bridges for the bicyclist, the pedestrian, and the golf cart or neighborhood electric vehicle user. What if it actually helped us meet AB 32 and SB 375? You look at the Coachella Valley, this is our traffic pattern in the Coachella Valley. This is our transit pattern in the Coachella Valley. People that use Sunline Transit, this trail, just coincidentally, runs along the most heavily traffic routes in the Coachella Valley. What if we could take a few people off of our street system, particularly this time of year, and put them on a multi-purpose active transportation project? And what if we distributed electric charging stations throughout the network? And of course, the obvious question is, won't all this stuff just add more to an expensive active transportation project? Well, charging stations, frankly, aren't very expensive. Widening some asphalt isn't very expensive. Building bridges, that's pretty expensive, and the undercrossings. So we've doubled the cost of the project. It may not seem very smart until you consider the economic benefit of a project like this, and for us, a tourist economy, to tell the world we have one of the largest active transportation projects in the nation, giving people something other than golf to do in the Coachella Valley. We measured the economic benefits, and just having people stay an extra half day, a few of them, translate into an over $1 billion positive impact to our economy. Design. Where are we? We hired the design team earlier this year, and we asked them to design the project, and they came back and said, we've done lots of trails. We nearly kicked them out of the room because we've told the tourist industry we're not building a recreational trail, we're building something iconic, and it's never been done before in this nation's history. Let me back up. And so I'm going to run through these slides very quickly in the interest of time. But we are building a game-changing experience in the Coachella Valley, and we're looking forward to the state being a partner in the process. This is a existing condition. For those of you that have been to the Coachella Valley, the tennis stadium is on the other side of this wash, and we're sitting close to Highway 111. This is what the trail is going to look like when we start construction and complete construction. At night, it might even offer a pretty cool experience. Bridges. Does that look like a trail, or does that look like a pretty darn cool piece of transportation infrastructure? Where we have the room, we're going to provide some other amenities. Shade structures, which might be slightly important in my neck of the woods. Solar facilities, and the like. Viewing areas. Again, I'm going through this relatively quickly. There are a couple of areas where you have to go on street, and even when we go on street in a Class 2 environment, we're going to do it in a special way. Again, shade structures. There are a couple golf courses in the way, and that's a delicate political issue for CVAG to deal with. I prefer to avoid it. But there are design ways around it, either around these golf courses or through them. Our designers call this the golf channel. No laughter for that? Come on, a little bit. The golf channel. Trailheads and access points. Charging stations. And the last couple slides, where are we on funding? So I've just told you that we had an expensive active transportation project, and we made it twice as expensive, and you expect me to be up here to ask for $100 million. Well, we did ask the state for some money. We got $1 million from the Strategic Growth Council. Thank you very much. We got $1 million from the County of Riverside's Open Space District. Thank you very much. We got $17.5 million, the largest award of its kind, from the South Coast Air Quality Management District for the obvious air quality benefits. CVAG, which in partnership with RCTC manages the eastern Coachella Valley portion of our sales tax measure, along with a development impact fee program, we're in for $20 million. Amazingly, the Desert Healthcare District, a healthcare district, is funding $10 million towards a piece of public health infrastructure. Air quality, transportation, public health are all in. CMAQ, maybe a bit more conventional. $12.5 million of CMAQ funding will be allocated to this project. And, as my friend Ann indicated, we'll be back to you in the near future for $2 million of STIP funding. In the Coachella Valley, we've historically allocated our STIP funding towards freeways. I believe this may be one of the largest allocations of STIP funding to anything remotely like this, an active transportation project with electric vehicles. We are in the master planning stage and the EIR-EIS. Director, we're working closely with your office in District 8 and BASM as the federal lead agency on the NEPA process. Thank you very much, and thank BASM. We expect groundbreaking to be in a couple of years. We will be still looking for additional funding, and we're going to be very actively interested in your active transportation program and MAP 21, but we are already $65 million committed into the nation's largest transportation project, active transportation project. More information can be found here. We're going to be passing out some pamphlets to you so you can learn more about it, and hopefully I could visit with you a little bit more at 5:30 this evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Commissioner Simi?
Quick question. What was the total funding? I mean, the total cost, project cost?
It's still in design. We initially estimated about $70 million of capital funding. My guess is going to be a little higher than that when we get to the end of the process.
And how did you determine how successful this is going to be and how many people will actually use it? I mean, you have a 12 million annual vehicle miles saved. How did you determine or forecast that and how successful this project will be? I mean, it looks beautiful.
Thank you. We modeled it. And to get the air quality funding out of the South Coast Air Quality Management District, we ran transportation models. This project broke the models back, frankly. And how good those models are, they've never done a 60, 50-mile long bike project that operates more like a freeway than it does like a safe routes to schools route. So the modeling was a challenge. They assumed 1-2% of peak hour trips would be on this facility, certainly during the winter, spring, and fall, and made a number of assumptions. The honest answer is we don't entirely know how the market was going to respond.
Did you survey commuters, people that are using the current bus system?
Yeah, commuters are a big part of it, and that's why we've transformed the project from one that's just recreation-based to one that is designed to serve major employment centers. This project is within 1/2 mile of half of the school kids in the Coachella Valley. It's within 1/2 mile of half of the business centers in the Coachella Valley.
Commissioner Arp?
Thank you for that presentation. It's a pretty cool project, I have to say. My wife and I, having spent time down there and brought our bicycles and had the daylight scared out of us as we ride along Monterey and Bob Hope and all those other main arteries, I would think this is a project that actually would get a lot of use if you've got a lot of places where people could get on and off to other places, as they're going along that artery. But I also had a question regarding the charging stations. Will they charge a Tesla by any chance?
Well, I'm impressed.
You could go really fast along there, I think.
I'm impressed that you have a Tesla.
I've just ridden one, but I do like them.
No, in actually speed.
He's actually stolen one.
No, they will not. They will charge the lower speed, smaller vehicles like the neighborhood electric vehicles. In fact, speed is going to be an issue. We plan on not allowing folks to travel much more than 20, 25 miles per hour. But for those of you that have seen these golf carts and low-speed electric vehicles, they could be souped up relatively easily. So it is going to be a factor that we've got to deal with.
Well, you'll have to deal with Carl's bike riding for that matter if you're going to limit it to 25 miles an hour.
It was actually one of the ironies that we tested some of this out on a little strip, and we found that at least with conventional vehicles, the bike riders were going faster than the golf carts. Again, thank you very much.
Any other questions of Tom? Thank
Thanks.
you very much. Thanks, presentation. We're going to go backwards to item number 9, Bassam.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Joanne Jargalis. I'm the Assistant Chief Counsel with the Caltrans Sacramento Legal Office. We are very committed to executing a maintenance and use agreement. Unfortunately, we can't do it in 30 or 40 minutes in a brief meeting upstairs. Mr. Mwalem is committed to presenting a draft to opposing counsel within the next week. But I have another idea as well. While we're negotiating the terms of the maintenance and use agreement, I see no reason why we cannot have you adopt the resolution of necessity today. That will enable us to continue the negotiations for the maintenance and use agreement. And I want to ensure that these people have an agreement that they're comfortable with. Let's assume we can't negotiate the terms within the next week or the next month. My idea is if you adopt the resolution of necessity, we file the condemnation action. That way the court has jurisdiction not only over the Sigmunds, but Caltrans as well. Then we can file a motion for an order for possession, and the department will not gain possession unless it's contingent on having a fully executed maintenance and use agreement, or as a condition for the court to grant us an order for possession. We don't have possession. We can't certify the project. We can't step 1 foot on that property until we have stipulated to the terms of a maintenance and use agreement. That way the Sigmunds are protected and we have given them what they want. And if we can't come to an agreement before we have an order for possession, the court can impose terms that the court deems just. And the court can set deadlines. And if Caltrans or the Sigmunds don't meet those deadlines, then we could be subject to sanctions. We don't want to be subject to sanctions, but that's a way that I have come up with that will guarantee that we get that maintenance and use agreement intact and in place. I don't want to have to come back and wish you folks Happy New Year. I can do that anyway. But I don't want to have to come back in January to wish you Happy New Year. And I think this is a really practical and reasonable solution. And for that reason, I request that you adopt the resolution so we can resolve these matters.
Do the Sigmunds concur with this?
No. Because their maintenance and use agreement really is tied into their objection to a design issue, and then they're also talking about compensation,
Okay.
which can only be handled in the court.
I have a question for Bassam. If this was continued to our January meeting, what does that do to you?
It won't do much. We think that it's going to be the same issue. I am very committed to have a maintenance agreement
We
with them.
understand that. I think we understand. What's the pleasure of the commission? Would you want to move the item or continue it? Sure.
Thank you. Only to say that I believe it's in the best interest of everybody that it be continued for the next meeting.
No.
Yes.
What?
Could you ask your question again, Commissioner?
I asked Bassam, by moving it to January, are we delaying the project? And you said no.
No, it will delay the project. It will delay the project, but I don't think it's going to be that adverse between now and January, but it is. I will. Where is Bill?
I asked Bill, is gone.
Is gone?
Yeah. We have a scheduled meeting, we have a contract obligation July 31st, July 31st, 2014. Then we're committed to give the property to the contract.
By what date?
By July next year.
So January doesn't, if we give you a resolution of necessity in January, does it affect you then?
Well, essentially it does
Would
because...
you let them answer,
Oh,
please?
okay.
Thank you.
It will, first of all, yeah, go ahead. You wanna- well, go ahead.
Come on up to the microphone, please.
We have a contractual obligation to deliver all the right-of-way for the project by end of July of 2014. So we had mapped out a schedule whereby that we needed to get the resolutions of necessity at this meeting in order to go through the process of all the motions and filings and schedules in order to do that.
So you're saying this would hold you up if you don't?
If it's delayed till the next meeting, then we don't think we'll have sufficient time to go through all the legal steps to acquire possession of the property prior to our contractually mandated requirement.
One other question, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Dunn?
Is it, probably maintenance agreements aren't usually done on projects? Is that a fair statement? In other words, what I'm trying to say is your usual process for us to do a resolution of necessity and then negotiate a maintenance agreement, is that your typical process that is done overwhelmingly in the majority of cases that have maintenance agreements?
99%, Commissioner.
And what percentage of these kind of projects do we have that have maintenance agreements? Just give me a ballpark.
Very minimal. Those are negotiated through the court process.
Yeah.
We feel that a legal easement grants the rights and responsibilities that Caltrans cannot overburden the servient tenement or their underlying fee interests. So we feel the law gives adequate protection, but we want to go a step further and outline everything that will be done for maintenance so that we can make sure that the Sigmonds are confident that we've taken care of them.
And if you do not have a maintenance agreement that's acceptable to the landowner, the court can then reject this?
Yes, the court can actually, as a condition to granting an order for possession, impose terms that it deems necessary to protect both parties.
Thank you.
I'm still a little confused. If you still have to go through all of that and get all that done, I don't know what the difference is between waiting till our next meeting, because I don't see how that's going to help you. But having said that, this is, to answer your question, this is a little, if I was a property owner, I know there's extenuating circumstances, I'd want him to buy it. Then there's no need for a maintenance agreement. Right. But for some reason, I guess he's got some other...
I can explain just briefly the conditions of approval in with the county specifically talk about the drainage and the basin. Caltrans was kind enough to hand me tonight a letter that attempted to deal with these conditions, but I need time in good conscience to advise my client about it. It might be there. It might be close. We would just request this short continuance to work this thing out.
Is there a chance that your client may switch from an easement to a straight purchase?
I don't... I'm not a chance. I mean, there's always a chance, I guess, of things, but we haven't discussed that lately. Perhaps in light of this, we need to revisit that too. That initially was there. Then we were concerned about the effect the fee would have on the development of the property.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to own the basin.
Right. Well,
personally,
this is part of the complexity of the issue. Why it's a design issue. It's because it involves their existing drainage. And so, in my good conscience, I can't see that the threshold requirements of meeting the resolution of necessity are there because we don't know that it's the most minimal impact to this property owner, and so that's why I'm requesting that it be continued.
So what's the pleasure of the commission?
I think we ought to give them the opportunity to put that,
maintenance agreement.
So that's you're suggesting a continuance to the next meeting? Commissioner Assemi?
Move for continuance.
I have a motion by Commissioner Assemi, seconded by Commissioner Fromer, to continue this item to our January meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 18, report by regional agencies. A very short report, correct?
Right. Yes. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Adrienne Cardoso with OCTA, the RTPA moderator this year. The RTPA group met today here in Riverside. We talked about the active transportation program, both the preliminary draft guidelines and also the fund estimate. First of all, we want to thank Commission staff very much for the work that they've done up and down the state. They've held a number of work group meetings, and the guidelines that they prepared really reflect that work. There is one area that I would like to comment on behalf of the RTPA group, and this will save time hopefully for later because I won't come back. The RTPA group does request that the Commission continue to work on ways to streamline the process and implement efficiencies wherever possible. One area that might benefit from some continued compromise is in the allocation process. Right now, the process proposes a project-by-project allocation. This, for some projects which have federal funding or go through the MPOs, this could be a 2, 3, or 4-step process. The RTPAs are requesting that the CTC consider a modified allocation process that might allocate funds similar to how they are allocated for the competitive bridge program, the safety program, or the 5310 program. We will continue to work with your staff on this request and look forward to presenting this concept in more detail at the hearings. The regions do appreciate the work that has been done. The guidelines are extremely flexible in many areas, and this will allow us to put our best projects forward and at the same time expedite the use of the federal funding before it goes stale. The RTPA group also received a report on the California workshop that Administrator Mamano spoke on. The one thing that I didn't think I heard in his report is he said that we found out at the meeting that we were only one of 3 states to have such a workshop, and because of that workshop, we will all be better prepared when the notice of proposed rulemaking comes out and the performance requirements come out. We'll be better prepared to comment. Let's see, trying to wrap it up. Finally, the group discussed some streamlining and efficiencies that are being developed by Caltrans local assistance through one of our subcommittees. One example is being able to enter forms online, submit them online. We're working with them on this and other efforts. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 19, rural counties. Sharon?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Hopefully not good evening yet. All right. Since our last meeting here with the Commission, we've had one Rural Counties Task Force. I won't be redundant in terms of Adrian's comments, but I would also like to compliment CTC staff and also Commissioner Gardino for their leadership in the active transportation program. We sent a letter to Chairman Gilmetti with some of our concerns. I'd like to highlight a couple of things that we support that we saw in the draft guidelines, one of which was the geographic distribution and that the 10% funds would flow to the rural agencies as well as the 9 small MPOs in the state. And secondly was a broad definition of what is considered a disadvantaged community. You know, we need to tailor that to the different parts of the state. And then lastly, one more request would be to, with the smaller projects, potentially use state funds to make a more streamlined delivery. As a follow-up to the performance measure conference that the Federal Highway Administration held for MAP 21, the rural counties have put money together and we're issuing a request for proposals to identify rural performance measures. So we'll be better able to equip you and the public with what would be pertinent in a rural area of the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Sharon? Thank you, Sharon. Okay, item 20, self-help counties. You're not Andy.
Sorry, no, I'm not Ann. I am Wendy Strack with Sandbag and here on behalf of the coalition. We just recently, as you know, completed our annual conference, and thank you to those who attended. And as we're always looking to improve, if there are any suggestions for next year and for future topics, please let us know. The coalition continues to be an active participant in the CTIP meetings and will be participating in the upcoming meeting to finalize recommendations for funding, life cycle, and maintenance issues, especially as they relate to sales tax funding and any potential lowering of voter thresholds. And we're excited to continue to help Secretary Kelly and our partners shape the future of funding in California. We'll also be engaged in 2014 in the Cap and Trade Coalition, the Active Transportation Program, as well as the proposed Managed Lanes Program. Lastly, we remain concerned that the extension granted to the Buy America program upon expiration at the end of this month may still present a problem for compliance going forward, and we look forward to the discussion later on the agenda today. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. Now we're going to skip to item 23. Hold on. Buy America.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you so much for this time. In the interest of time, I really did have a beautifully flowing dissertation about where we're at, but I will certainly go ahead and abridge my comments if that would please the Commission. Is that okay? Okay, great. Basically, what we've done is there have been some very recent developments that have occurred that I think will provide some assurance. I'm hoping will provide some level of assurance that will provide a transition into 2014 in such a way that it will not be nearly as treacherous as we once thought. We have basically developed two sets of guidelines that have been put together in a collaborative method with FHWA, Caltrans, scores of local agencies, dozens of utility companies, as well as CTC staff and even a few commissioners to help. And we have come to the point where as of December 5th, basically last week, FHWA signed off fully concurring to the guidelines. Now there's two sets of guidelines that I'd like to point out. The first set basically provide, first of all, they're in complete alignment with federal law and FHWA guidelines, and they provide discernment between what materials are subject to Buy America versus which materials are not subject to Buy America. And they're presented in such a way that the utility service providers can apply them almost immediately. The other set of guidelines that we provided were how the utility companies will demonstrate that the relative materials are actually consistent with Buy America provisions, and we call that the material certification requirements. And those guidelines provide expectations and procedures on how to assure that the materials going into the ground are in fact compliant with Buy America. Any questions before I move on?
Seeing none.
In closing,
good.
I would like to point out that it would be clumsy of me to suggest that we are out of the woods. Obviously, with projects having their unique issues, we will definitely have to remain on our toes as we proceed into 2014 and beyond. But I believe that the relationships that have been forged during this past 6 months with all the stakeholders, I think that will really serve to provide streamlined methods to find success. I'd also like to point out that we have 3 utility companies that we've asked to participate today to offer their very brief comments so that the Commission would have a very well-rounded perspective, not only from Caltrans's perspective, but also from the utilities' perspective as far as how they're positioned to enter into 2014. And once I step down from the podium, I'm going to ask them to come up if that would be okay.
Any questions? Okay, we do have 3 speakers. The first speaker is Jeff Kagan from Southern California Edison. I'm sure these will be brief comments.
Commissioners, thank you very much for this time. I'm Jeff Kagan, Buy America Compliance Program Manager for Southern California Edison. I want to thank Gary for inviting us here today. I want to let you know that Southern California Edison is well on its way to compliance with Buy America on the FHWA funded projects. We have checked the items that are typically used for these installations, and they are overwhelmingly compliant. We have also implemented a process to check compliance for future designs. We've done all of this with the help of Brent Green and Gary Gutierrez and Steve Pyburn from Caltrans and FHWA, and I think we're ready to go. We have FTA-funded projects as well. We are starting to work with the FTA and are starting to make slowly some progress with them, but we have more work to do on the FTA side.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Valerie Wynn from Pacific Gas and Electric.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Since we last spoke, I think back in the spring of this year, certainly the July memorandum from the FHWA has allowed PG&E to make a lot of progress in coming into compliance with Buy America. It's also allowed a number of very important projects in our service territory to move forward, and we've had the benefit of getting those local jobs created as well. We've gone through a very exhaustive analysis of our supply chain, over 1,600 pieces of equipment, to determine whether we can get those from compliant suppliers. And for the most part, with the exception of about maybe 10 items, gas valves, as we all hear about, we're able to get those materials from compliant suppliers with pretty much the same lead time that we were able to get those materials from our current vendors. As I noted, though, gas valves remain kind of an issue, and they're really one of the 3 areas of challenge that we see going forward. Getting a domestic supplier of those, different FTA and FHWA interpretations of the Buy America requirements, and then an emerging issue for us is FHWA's consideration as to whether an existing exemption for manufactured products should continue into the future. And if that exemption is extinguished, then that will create some challenges for us in terms of transformers and how they would comply with Buy America requirements. And that's one that the utilities provided pretty extensive comments on back in September, and we're not sure yet how FHWA will proceed on that. I did want to really thank Caltrans for their partnership in really helping us come into compliance and better understand the Buy America rules. Gary Gutierrez has been invaluable, and the guidelines that he mentioned that were approved last week by FHWA are really important and really provide us the upfront guidance that we need to remain in compliance. So thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Valerie. Any questions? Commissioner Inman?
Valerie, I just have a quick question. Initially, we heard concerns about not only the construction, but the ongoing maintenance. Have you all figured out within your supply chains how you would be able to replace a part that needs to be compliant?
Certainly, we are tagging particular codes in our inventory system so that we know that it is a Buy America compliant piece, and so if it needs to be replaced, it will be replaced with compliant materials. I think there are certain exceptions if things need to be repaired on an emergency basis, and certainly we'll consider that as well. But we have made significant improvements to our tracking system.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Valerie.
Okay, thank you.
And the last speaker from Verizon, Michael Riley.
I'm Mike Riley from Verizon, Network Engineering Manager, and I can just assure you that Verizon is diligently working to meet all the requirements of Buy America. Working extremely close with Gary Gutierrez and the Caltrans group. Our national legal counsel has been in contact with Gary, and he's been a big player, and California's become the kind of the lead on for all the different states. So I just wanted to ditto also what the gas company in Edison has said. We're also working towards all the different products that we use in telecommunications and the different issues that we run into, and honing down that list. That's kind of the biggest issue we're working on now, but we're getting there. So that's really all I would say.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate it. Okay, now on to item 21, the 710 update.
figure out our sides here. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. We've been asked to do an update on SR 710 North. In the interest of time, I'll go through the slides relatively quickly. Not a lot has changed on the project from our last presentation to you. There we go. About a year ago. The study area, as you'll remember, was a very broad area. We were asked to look at many different modes and not just closing spots A and B as we did this study. So we looked broadly through the area through a series of alternatives. And we've really at this time taken it down to 5 alternatives that are under study as we do the environmental document. We always do a no-build alternative. Then there's the transportation system management, transportation demand management alternative. And then we have really 3 build alternatives that we're looking at. First one is a bus rapid transit alternative. I believe we presented this last time. At the north end, we're circling basically Pasadena City College and Caltech, bringing it on Del Mar Avenue, then down Fair Oaks through Pasadena and South Pasadena, up Huntington to Atlantic. We take it down Atlantic all the way past the Gold Line in East, unincorporated East Los Angeles, down to Whittier Boulevard. It performs much better if we go that far due to the large number of east-west traffic there. We have a light rail alternative, which is a tunnel that starts up in Pasadena near our station there, one of our stations there, so we can have a Gold Line access. It continues south, primarily along Fair Oaks Avenue, transitions over so we can have a station at Cal State LA, and then ends at, again, the Gold Line in unincorporated East Los Angeles College. And then we have a freeway tunnel alternative, which is the portal for the freeway. The south end of the portal is south of Valley Boulevard, north of the 10 freeway, traverses a tunnel throughout the corridor, and then comes out of the tunnel north, actually, of Del Mar, for those of you that are familiar with the north end, between Del Mar and Green, south of the 210-134 freeway interchange. So those are the 3 build alternatives. It is an important project. It's in the SCAG's Regional Transportation Plan. It was identified in Measure R as a named project. It was passed by 2/3 of the voters in Los Angeles County in 2008. As such, our board has directed us to perform an environmental document for that. We're making great progress on that, these 5 alternatives. We've done all the alternatives analysis. We're now pulling together the technical documents from that. We anticipate that next spring we'll have a draft environmental document that will be out for circulation so we can begin discussing alternatives, what would be a preferred alternative from the point of having data that we can compare and contrast. And with that, we clearly have a number of methods of communication, including something my daughter tells me is important, this tweet thing and Facebook stuff, but we have our traditional methods as well, phone banks, web pages, and then an email. So with that, Carrie and I, Doug Failing, LA Metro, and I have with me Carrie Bowen, she's the District Director for Caltrans District 7. Caltrans is the CEQA and NEPA lead on the project. We're here if you have any questions.
Do you have any questions? Doug or Commissioner Fromer?
So the date for the release of the first draft of the EIR is when? It's this coming spring?
Yes, it's spring of 2014. The current schedule shows it in March, April is what we're anticipating. Okay. Perhaps May. We have to start assembling the documents, go through the legal reviews, but we're targeting spring of 2014.
Okay, then I assume there'd be a series of public hearings and comment period.
Absolutely.
For the public. And you've got that, you're starting to figure out what that schedule looks like too.
Yeah.
And when I guess my question is, when do you see the EIR coming to us?
We normally bring it to the commission post FEIR time, and it gives the commission a chance to certify it for future consideration for funding. I would anticipate that happening in early 2015. We are anticipating quite a few comments and a need to work through that.
Yeah, just a few, I'm sure.
I'm sure
Yes.
just a few.
Thanks, Doug.
Any other questions? Okay, I have at least 14 speakers that have signed up to speak here. In deference to time, if you could kind of limit your comments to 3 minutes, how's that? And I want to start by announcing the first 3, Anthony Portantino, Odom Stamps, and Sylvia Plummer. Do you miss the assembly, Anthony?
I used to be, Mr. Chairman, I used to be, and hopefully I can stay within 3 minutes, but I would respectfully ask for a little latitude if I run a little over.
Do your best.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for having this on the agenda. And I actually find one thing that I agree with Mr. Failing. Not a lot has changed. Here we are almost a decade into this project, and we don't know how much it's going to cost. And we don't know what the benefit is going to be. We have no credible benefit or traffic information that has been made available to the public. And I thought it was interesting listening to Tom talk about the project in the Coachella Valley, which had actually conducted a cost-benefit analysis and actually has a funding plan before they do the EIR. What a novel concept to actually know what you're buying before you start spending millions of dollars. So 3 years ago, I spoke before the Commission, and commissioners were quite concerned that there was no cost analysis available. And you all sat up and asked very good questions and talked to Mr. Failing about getting that data, and here we are 3 years later, still absent any credible information. One thing I do find that's interesting, one of the funding models that's being used for this project is based on the Alaskan Way project at $1.13 billion per mile, and we're told that that's the same funding model that's being used for the Sepulveda Pass project and the 710. But interestingly, the Sepulveda Pass project using the same funding model is $10 billion, but the 710, which is actually longer but the same gauge, is half that. So how can we be using the same funding model but coming up with half the cost? So I would say if MTA is the lead agency, if they can't do basic math, we should find another lead agency for this project. We're then told that all of a sudden one tunnel might disappear in order to meet the $5 billion price tag. Well, if all of the basis for this project has been for a decade on 2 tunnels, if we suddenly cut it to 1, don't we lose the necessity for the project? I would argue yes. So again, I would say it's very crystal clear at a time when the taxpayer limited dollars are being stretched as much as we can that we don't spend the $780 million of Measure R money on a project that we already know doesn't pencil out. One of the MTA commissioners has repeatedly asked for a cost-benefit analysis. And if you go back to 2006, the region was promised that we would not move to an EIR until a cost-benefit analysis was conducted. Every effort to get one put on the table has been voted down, again, by the lead agency. The lead agency question is also very interesting because the same MTA commissioner has asked to have county council say who's actually in charge, who's going to make the decision, and guess what? The document that was issued by county council is being kept secret. County council told the board members, do not release the document to the public. They tried illegally to go into closed session to talk about a memo, and as all of you know, you can only go into closed session to talk about property acquisition, litigation, or personnel. A memo on who's in charge doesn't fall into any of those 3 categories. When audience members shouted them down not to go into closed session illegally, they said, well, we'll just keep the memo secret. So again, if you have an agency that can't answer the question who's in charge, how can you trust them with a $10 billion project? Again, I go back to P3. It's interesting that the slide said freeway. Freeways are free. P3s have tolls. This is a toll road. Again, at very least, it should be called what it is, a tollway. And so if you have an agency making a presentation before this board, calling it a freeway, when it is in fact a tollway, that should send a red light very, very blinking. Mr. Kempton, when he was the director of Caltrans, again, reiterated to the region that before this project moved forward, a cost-benefit analysis would be done. And he tasked MTA with Task Order 5. Interestingly, within 2 months of him leaving that post, Task Order 5 was red-penciled out. Red-penciled out. So here we are, 3 years later. We don't know the cost. We don't know the impact on arterial streets. Oh, by the way, A toll will create a 35% diversion rate. Traffic on the arterial streets will increase, not decrease. No one has put that information on the table. Mr. Frommer asked a very good question. Will there be public meetings? Well, at those public meetings that have been going on, no credible information on the benefit to air quality, to traffic, or cost are being given out to the affected communities. Meanwhile, as the cities learn more about this project, you're seeing city after city after city take an opposed position. One of the speakers that will follow me will present, I think, over 1,600 signatures on a petition that have been gathered just in the past weeks to oppose this project. I've been assured by Caltrans and the governor's office that this project won't move forward without an agency other than MTA holding people responsible and asking tough questions. What I'm asking you today is to ask those tough questions. How is it that you can use a funding model that's pretty simple but come up with half the price? I think MTA Commissioner Aranajarian is correct. I'm almost there. Is correct in his assumption that a P3 only works if the price is under $6 billion. So every effort is being done to make sure that the cost estimates are under $6 billion, when in fact this project is going to be well over $10 billion. You owe it to the taxpayer, you owe it to the residents, you owe it to all of us to ask the tough questions, and I urge you to do that. I urge you to put a fork in F7 alternative to the 710. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please, I've been told that we have this room only till 6 o'clock, so I am going to hold you to 3 minutes. After Odom and Sylvia, I have Joe Kano. Odom.
Good afternoon, honorable members of the Commission. My name is Odom Stamps, and in addition to being a representative of the No 710 Action Committee, a broad-based community grassroots organization for our region, I've served as councilman and mayor of South Pasadena and currently serve as the Pasadena Community College Board representative of Measure P bond oversight. And I serve as president of the South Pasadena Preservation Foundation, an original plaintiff that received the injunction against the further northward expansion of the surface or cut and cover 710. The committee first wishes to express its appreciation for the state administration's support of Senator Liu's bill, SB 416, which has been signed by the governor and is now enacted as Chapter 468 of the California statutes. Moving on, we would like to agree with Caltrans that the department, and only Caltrans department, is a lead agency for the EIR, EIS that may emerge from this process. The CEQA standards provide, in contrast to the NEPA standards, that only one agency can serve as lead, and that because of its responsibility for the state highway development, Caltrans is that single agency. Moreover, in order for California to serve as the appropriate delegate of the Federal Highway Administration for preparation of NEPA, the state itself must act as the lead agency and cannot redelegate that responsibility to a local or regional agency. Second, the Metro Authority is actually preparing this environmental assessment under contract with Caltrans as lead agency. This arrangement creates the inherent risk present when a lead agency assigns EIR preparation to a project proponent, and that the emergent draft and final EIR EIS will reflect Metro's judgment, not the legally required independent judgment of Caltrans. Measure R.
Can you wrap it up, please? We're
Yeah.
really running short of time here.
Sure. The last 2 points that I would just touch on is that the $780 million raised under Measure R is not assigned for any particular project, certainly not a tunnel, and would like to make sure that you guys take that into consideration. And finally, that the financial feasibility of this most costly alternative has never been established. Anthony Portantino covered that very thoroughly. So I made a copy of this letter available, and apropos of December, I have a lovely coffee cup for each of you.
Thanks. Before we continue, this is just a presentation. We're not taking any votes here, and you can send us your written comments. We're more than happy to listen, but I've got an agenda we've got to get through, and I'm not sure even if I give you 2 minutes or 3 minutes, we're going to get through this. So is there a way you can, say you're either supporting the project or you're not supporting the project, and let's just move forward?
Well, I'm here to complain about Metro.
And
it's Metro's duty to...
Ma'am, I can't do anything with Metro. We don't control Metro.
I'm concerned about their outreach to stakeholders.
Then you need to go talk to the Metro board. We can't do any. We don't control Metro.
Well, since they're in partnership with you, I thought you would be concerned that
all we do is
month,
we're going to certify the environmental impact report when we finally get it. That's our role. There'll be some funding that's going to be charged to us to allocate, but if your complaint is with Metro, then you need to go meet with Art Leahy and meet with the Metro board. We can't help you with that.
Okay, well, I just thought you would want to know that in the last 2 months that we're trying to do outreach in the city of Pasadena, in the Northwest District, which is primarily Hispanic and African American, and we've tried to have a couple forums and have invited them to come out, and they have refused. And so for that reason, the Pasadena city staff has told the Northwest Commission that was going to sponsor these outreach that they could not hold the event if Metro was not present. And I just don't think that's right, that they don't want to participate, because that should be something they should be doing before the draft EIR comes out.
Mr. Chairman, can I interject here? We have a number of people who have come some distance from my region to speak, and I understand, obviously, we have the interest of time. We don't only have this room till 6 o'clock, and we have some items to vote on. I'm wondering if we could allow a couple of the elected officials to come up, and then ask others to come up and just put your name on the record and voice your support or opposition to the project. And if people want to submit comments, I will make sure they all get in the record. I appreciate everyone being here today, and I know many of you because we've been on this issue for many, many years. But I think it would be great if we get a couple of our elected officials to go on the record. But in the interest of time, I hope you'll understand the situation that we're in, having to give up the room, and then we have a number of items to vote on. But I do want to say one thing, and Barbara, I know I'd like you to come up in just a second, and I want to say this to Metro. I've been watching this issue for a long time, starting from when I was a young staff guy for Senator Artoris in South Pasadena. It's been going on. The freeway was supposed to be done in 1964. I really hope that when this document is done, a lot of these questions are going to be answered, because I will say that the people in this room and others have consistently raised the same questions that I have raised about cost benefit, about how much money this is going to cost us, how we're all going to pay for this. I think these are serious issues. So I trust, Doug, that as you're doing this analysis, which you're doing now, when we see something in the spring, that it's going to address the issues, because those are the questions I'm going to be asking when the EIR comes to us. And with that, if we perhaps we have this gentleman,
I'll make my comments short.
Again, I greatly appreciate everyone who made the trip out here today. I'm sorry that we're running so late on the program. It's just that we couldn't control the length of time on the resolutions of necessity.
Okay, I'll make my comments short. Just to clarify to the chairman, sir, I just want you to understand that Mr. Leahy is the force behind obfuscating this whole project. Mr. Leahy's the one that's directing these people not to give out information, to have very poor outreach. In El Sereno, which is largely Mexican-American community, we got the Walking Man delivery for the outreach, for the first outreach in September. You know what Walking Man is? It's a guy that goes around with a little pouch and puts a little paper on your door. $40 million, and El Sereno gets that. Pasadena gets some real nice flashy presentations. San Marino, Alhambra, everybody gets the flashy thing. We get squat. We got disrespected, and we do not appreciate it. And the same conditions that exist when the court filed injunctions against the 710 project exists today. They exist as they did then, they exist today. Northeast Pasadena and El Sereno, where majority of minorities live, where we will suffer disproportionate heart disease, lung disease, and medical maladies due to the pollution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Mr. Chairman.
Councilperson Barbara Messina.
Mr. Chairman, just one quick suggestion.
Yes.
I'm prepared to stay as long as people would want to talk and listen, but maybe if we could ask them to wait and we work on our action items first and get through that agenda, just as an idea
Let's let the councilwoman speak. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I am Barbara Messina, Councilwoman for the City of Alhambra. I am also the President of the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, representing 2 million people in the San Gabriel Valley. We support this project. It has been, for a number of years, many, many more than I care to mention, a priority on our transportation projects. All of the issues that were raised earlier will be addressed when the EIS comes out, and we anxiously await that draft so that all of these correct information can be disseminated to people, because right now you're getting a lot of misinformation, and we are eagerly awaiting the draft so that it can all be addressed. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And Chief of Staff for John Fasana, who is our Metro representative, is here this evening in support of the 710. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Snyder.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll be very brief. I am Richard Schneider, Dr. Richard Schneider. I'm the mayor of South Pasadena. First, I'd like to express our appreciation and thankfulness that SB 416, the Carol Liu bill, was passed, and we now have some sort of resolution to all the houses and other properties that are owned in the corridor. And it was passed through the legislature unanimously in both the Assembly and the Senate. And that wouldn't have happened without the cooperation and support of Secretary Kelly and Mr. Doherty. So that's one thing. We're very happy about that, and we hope that that they will issue the regulations and get forward, get to the distribution and disposition of those properties. And the other thing is just one thing: the EIR will not address financial implications. No cost-benefit analysis of any sort has been done on the toll tunnel proposal. We request that the Commission take action to secure some sort of analysis of the financial feasibility of this alternative before the draft EIR is released and a whole new protracted legal process begins. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. And we're going to have one more speaker before we go back to our agenda items. And we have time, we'll come back to the other speakers. Councilmember Donald Voss.
Good evening. I'm Donald Voss. I'm a council member from La Cañada Flint Ridge. As you note from your package, the State Route 710 project is currently in a study stage to determine whether there is an actual need to address mobility at the northern terminus of the 710 freeway, and if so, by what economical means. And these are identified as the alternatives in your package, as Mr. Filling described them. One of these alternatives is a 4.5-mile freeway tunnel currently projected to cost $5.4 billion. Today, I don't want to talk about the fact that the cities and communities of Sierra Madre, La Crescenta, South Pasadena, La Cañada Flint Ridge, Glendale, and Los Angeles are all on record formally opposing the freeway tunnel. And I don't want to talk about the devastating and potentially life-threatening effects the proposed tunnel would bring to families who live in proximity to existing freeways in the many communities that oppose the tunnel. Instead, I'd like to talk about what has so far been an elusive missing ingredient in evaluating each of the mobility alternatives, and that is a credible cost-benefit analysis and a foundational methodology. Despite the fact that tens of millions of dollars have already been spent evaluating the mobility alternatives, and despite the fact that LA County Metro has earmarked $780 million for this project that isn't even yet defined, there is a lack of information to make a determination that any of the alternative projects would make financial sense. a methodology to quantify the benefit of any of the alternatives and to measure that quantified benefit against the relevant cost has not been made available, especially at this time in which actual costs of California mega projects in relation to budgets are coming under increased scrutiny, such as the new eastern span of the Bay Bridge. It is crucially important to understand a realistic cost estimate for each of these 710 project alternatives and the associated cost-benefit relationships. This is particularly true for the freeway tunnel alternative because, as currently projected, it would cost twice as much as all the other alternatives combined. I respectfully ask the commissioners to be watchful of all developments on this project, especially those related to projected costs and missing cost-benefit analysis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So if we have some time before we have to leave the building, but we're going to go back, we'll do public comments.
Can I ask one very quick question, though, of Caltrans? Sure. Aren't we not supposed to do a cost-benefit analysis on large projects before we start? Is there some requirement?
There's a requirement during the process to do various financial analysis on the projects.
Is that done in advance of the EIR, in the EIR, or
It'll be part of the project report.
Okay, so it'll be part of the project report, which is part of the EIR.
It's adjacent to the EIR. We can fold it into the EIR.
It comes before, right? Okay, so when do you expect that to be out?
It doesn't come before. It's at the same time. They're parallel paths.
So they'll be released together?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and can I make one thing clear is that Caltrans is CEQA and NEPA lead on the project, and we have made that clear at Metro
So you are the
meetings.
lead agency
Yes.
for both? Okay.
Yes.
Excellent.
I just would also note that our board has insisted on a cost-benefit analysis, which is part of this parallel path.
Okay. Mitch, item 24, I know you've been taking comments. I know there's probably some speakers who want to participate, but my suggestion is we take them in writing and you share them with the commissioners.
Yes, and certainly we're also conducting and continue to conduct additional work group meetings and are forming subgroups to address specific issues. So there's certainly opportunity for people to comment and for us to make revisions.
All right, so those speakers that have handed me cards here, I'm not going to allow you to speak. I'm sorry. So if you can submit your comments to Mitch, and Mitch will get them to the commissioners so we can read them for the sake of moving through this thing. Item 25.
Item 25 is the Active Transportation Program fund estimate. There are just a couple of key assumptions I want to make the commissioners aware of. The first is what we've done is roll 3 years of funding into 2 years of programming. That presents some risks and some challenges, but we think it's something that we should be doing. Secondly, the fund estimate makes it clear the 25% requirement for benefiting disadvantaged communities applies to the large MPOs in addition to the statewide program. And staff recommends approval of this item.
A motion by Commissioner Tavallone, seconded by Commissioner Simi. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item passes. Information calendar.
Yes, Commissioners, item 26 to 37 are information items. Just as a note, item 30 is pulled. There is no presentations to be made.
It's information. Consent calendar.
Yes, Commissioners, the next 14 agenda items, 38 through 51, are consent items. The following changes need to be identified. Item 41, Tehachapi EIR. The EIR is not ready for approval, and the item is withdrawn from the agenda. Item 45, resolutions of necessity. We now have 27 uncontested resolutions of necessity, not 28. Resolution C21149 is withdrawn because the property owner has requested an appearance. Item 46, Director's Deed, deed number 2704CC4, postmark 22.6 is pulled at the request of the department. Item 54 is added to the consent calendar. With these changes, staff recommends the Commission approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Your second. You had a motion from Commissioner Tavallone, second from Commissioner.
I'm sorry, there's one item being pulled from the consent calendar. It's item 48.
Same motion? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 52, Juan. Tabelloni Yassini.
One.
Thank you. Okay, just contact us there and we'll get it to you. Sorry, Commissioner. I didn't hear, but I'm assuming we're on item 52?
52.
52. Thank you.
I know it's been a long day.
Yeah, sorry, I was distracted. Item 52, Commissioners, is an action item. It's a request by the LACMTA to keep the proceeds from the sale of some surplus property that they purchased with Prop 108 funds back in 1992. The project that they were instituting on that right-of-way has been put in place. It's in operation. It's the orange line. And this is surplus property, and they are willing to abide by certain conditions that we placed on previous similar items that the Commission has approved. So the Commission, staff recommends that the Commission approve this item with the conditions stipulated in the book item.
A motion by Commissioner Tabelloni, seconded by Commissioner Inman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 53-1.
53 is also an action item. It's an amendment to the Prop 1B Intercity Rail Program, and the Department's Division of Rail is making some changes, deprogramming funding from 2 projects and adding it to 2 other projects. One of them is new, is the Van Nuys Station project, and staff recommends the approval of the action.
Motion by Commissioner Tabelloni, seconded by Commissioner Fromer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Item 54 was on the consent calendar. Item 55 and 56. Commissioner Simi, I believe, has to recuse himself.
Yes, Chairman. My company owns property that could benefit from Veterans Boulevard, so I need to recuse myself from these 2 agenda items, 55 and 56.
Why don't you go out this door right here, or that door, and then we'll come and get you. Okay. Laura?
Commissioners, agenda items 55 and 56 will be taken together for action. These items are a final EIR and a new public road connection for the Veterans Boulevard State Route 99 interchange and grade separation project in the city of Fresno. The EIR identified significant unavoidable noise impacts for which the department adopted a statement of overriding considerations. Staff recommends that the Commission accept the EIR findings and overriding considerations, approve the project for future consideration of funding, and authorize a new public road connection.
Move staff recommendation.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Gardino, seconded by Commissioner Fromer. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Will someone knock on the door?
Yeah, Doug is getting it.
Okay, item 57-1.
Thank you, Commissioners. Action item. This is the monthly allocation for SHOP projects. The department has 14 projects that are ready to proceed, and they're requesting an allocation of $67,165,000. Staff recommends the approval of the allocation.
Motion by Commissioner Fromer, seconded by Commissioner Simi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Item 58-1.
Commissioners, item 58 is also an action item, and it's a request for a financial allocation. This is a process used for federal funds that California gets. This is $170,000 from a federal earmark received by for a project in Siskiyou County. Staff recommends your approval.
Moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tabelloni, seconded by Commissioner Dunn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 59, Laurel.
Yes, Commissioners, items 59 and 60 are requests for allocations for state-administered STIP projects. Staff recommends your approval.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Harp, seconded by Commissioner Simi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's passed. Item 61, Laurel.
Yes, Commissioners, this is an action item to allocate $20 million of state-only STIP funds for the locally administered Golden Gate Movable Median Barrier Project. This is a state-only because of the toll bridge. The monies are used for transit, so it's not federally eligible. Staff recommends your approval.
We have one speaker, Dennis Mulligan, who waited this long. I can't believe it. This is the guy that gives tours of the tower.
Thank you for your patience. My name is Dennis Mulligan. On behalf of the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District, I want to thank you in advance. Hopefully I'm not being presumptuous for the action you're about to take. I'd like to welcome all of you to come visit the bridge someday. So thank you.
Dennis, before you leave, when will these barriers actually be in place?
We anticipate October of next year. We'll have to do a weekend closure on the bridge starting at about midnight on a Friday night through late Sunday night.
You'll give me notice?
We'll give you adequate notice.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I need a motion and a second.
I'll move those.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Fromer, seconded by Commissioner Dunn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 62.
Yes, Commissioners, this is an action item to allocate STIP funds for 9 locally administered STIP projects. Staff recommends your approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Tavaloni, seconded by Commissioner Simi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 63 has been pulled. Item 64, Stephen?
Yes, Commissioners, item 64, 65 through 68 are Prop 1B allocations with a note that item 66 is being withdrawn. For the other 4 items, staff recommends approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tavaloni, seconded by Commissioner Arp. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 69.
Commissioners, item 69 is an action item. There's a change to the item. It was for 2 projects originally. It now is 1 project, and it's the new project that was added in the earlier action for the Prop 1B Intercity Rail Program. This is the Van Nuys North Platform Project, requesting $4 million. Staff recommends your approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Tavaloni, seconded by Commissioner Simi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 71.
Item 70 is also an action item. It's a request for an allocation of $300,000 for 2 transit vehicles in Lassen County. Staff recommends your approval.
Motion by Commissioner Dunn, seconded by Commissioner Fromer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 71-1.
71 is a request for an allocation of $6.6 million by the Department's Division of Rail for a project in Northern California. Staff recommends your approval.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion by Commissioner Arp, seconded by Commissioner Dunn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Laura, we have an information item.
Yes, Commissioners, tab 72, this is the quarterly report on balances, AB 1012, use it or lose it. This is as of September 30th. As of September 30th, we have approximately $650,000 of CMAQ funds that remain unobligated and are now subject to reprogramming. Madera County has a balance of almost $418,000. The next item, tab 73, is an action item. Madera County is requesting a waiver of the AB 1012 use it or lose it deadline. They would like to keep these funds. They have identified a project that can utilize all of this remaining balance and be obligated by May. And staff recommends your approval of tab 73.
So moved.
I have a question.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second. I have a motion from Commissioner Simi, a second by Commissioner Fromer, and a question from Commissioner Arp.
I just, so the question is, why haven't the funds been obligated prior to now?
They sort of dropped the ball is what they did. And what they're doing is they have said that they will change their procedures and measures to avoid this kind of delay. But what they have identified is projects totaling about $3 million. So if this one that they've identified to obligate isn't ready, they do have sufficient funds to obligate other projects by the deadline, by this extended deadline. So they should be able to do this, but they didn't really explain it other than they're putting new procedures in place to avoid it. So I think they just dropped the ball.
Could you let them know that they're allowed to drop the ball once?
This is very rare. I have to say these waivers are very rare. We do. I think the last time was 4 years ago.
Yeah, we haven't seen it.
Commissioner Dunn.
Why aren't they here to talk about this and to
well, I think
chat with us?
partly because it's so rare that they've identified a project, so we sort of told them that staff is not going to have a problem with that. That's what I told them, that I would go ahead and recommend it. So that's my assumption as to why they're not here. They usually don't come to the meetings.
Well, I know, but
Yeah.
we don't usually let people waive use it or lose it stuff too when there's other projects that could
Well,
use
we
it.
haven't had very many requests,
Yeah,
that's true.
exactly.
Yeah, and I think we did approve the last one.
But they've identified another project.
They
that
have
money can go
identified a
to.
project that is actually of a greater amount than the amount that they're asking for. But they have admitted their error and they're making changes to their procedures.
Can you flag this one for us?
Yes.
Because if you said, I think you said that they could do this by May of next year?
Right,
They
they
could
have,
use
they
it
have
by
committed
May.
to that, yes. And we do have another county on this report that is also subject to reprogramming. You'll see that be coming back next month, and the department will be recommending to reprogram.
You can flag it by May. If these guys don't have their act together by May, we'll flag it.
Well, maybe like a month ahead of time, let us know where it is.
I'll contact them.
That'd be great.
Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I believe 74 is withdrawn.
Yes.
Okay. Item 75.
Thank you, Commissioners. Commissioners, you have a pink version of the spreadsheet with the staff recommendations on time extensions, which are tabs 75 through 84. So if you bear with me, we're going to have to take these separate because there's many changes. And I'll just let you know that my recommendations will be in line with the recommendations shown on the pink sheet. Item 75 is a request for contract award for local STIP projects, and projects 7 and 10 have been withdrawn. The 8 remaining project, the recommendations for those projects are listed on the pink sheet, and staff recommends your approval.
Second.
Is this just for item 75 now?
That's correct.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tavalloni, a second by Commissioner Simi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 76.
Item 76, Commissioners, project number 5 has been withdrawn. The other 7 projects, the recommendations are as shown on the pink spreadsheet. Staff recommends your approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dunn, seconded by Commissioner Simi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 77, Juan.
77, Commissioners, staff recommends approval of the 8 months time extension for that project.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Simi, seconded by Commissioner Tavalloni. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 78, Juan.
Commissioners, item 78 has been withdrawn. Item 79, of the projects number 2 and 3 are also been withdrawn. That leaves 5 projects, and the staff recommendations are shown on the pink spreadsheet. Staff recommends your approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tavalloni, seconded by Commissioner Arp. All those in favor? Opposed? Question?
That was actually Commissioner Semi who made the second.
Oh, I stand corrected.
When separated at birth, and many people confuse them.
All right, I have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 80.
Commissioners, I now would like to take items 80 through 84 together, and
We have a speaker on 84, so why don't you take item
very well. Let me then take item 80 by itself, because that has a change on it. That item, with the late information, we're recommending 8 months time extension for that project.
Okay. When is it appropriate for me to ask if 82 can be handled individually?
I'll do them individually, Commissioner.
We are doing them individually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Tavalloni, a second by Commissioner Simi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 81.
Commissioners, item 81 is a recommendation for 12 months extension. Staff recommends your approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tavalloni, seconded by Commissioner Arp. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 82.
Commissioners, item 82 is a request by Caltrans for a 20-month extension to their project in Mendocino County. Staff recommends your approval.
We have a question from Commissioner Arp.
I do. The details of this are basically that the bids came in high, I understand, and you want to delay it, or Caltrans wants to delay it. But I guess my question is, from what I hear or understand with this project, is that you want to break that contract up into pieces, and somehow this is supposed to save money. So I'm just trying to figure out how that works.
Yeah,
And
so
can I add to that, please? That we're looking at costs going up, actually, at least in the construction world. How does delaying it 20 months?
So there were a number of issues with this particular project, and there was a requirement for the length of project for plant establishment to be 8 to 10 years. There was a really large dollar amount for getting bonding. There were various other requirements for the agencies as far as our mitigation. So upon talking to various contractors, we're re-looking at how we're going to go forward with this and potentially take some of the work out and then divide it up into some smaller contracts which are more manageable. We actually had a number of contractors that came forward for the pre-bid here, for the pre-bid meeting. There were 18, and there were only 3 contractors that actually ended up bidding because of the size of the contract. So we're working with the regulatory agencies to figure out what potentially can be done differently in the projects, along with going back and dividing it into smaller, more workable contracts. But that's going to take a little bit of time to go through the whole process. And as far as the whole project is concerned, we're happy to come back and give you a larger update for the whole project. But for the mitigation, that's what's happening with the mitigation projects.
Has there been a lot of this? I understand is just meeting the Corps of Engineer permit requirements and so forth, right?
Yes, it's meeting Corps of Engineer along with there's one other, the Fish and the other MP is for the Department of Fish and Water and the Water Quality Control Board. Yeah, so it's mitigation and monitoring plans.
I guess one of the questions I have on this is that there's just a lot of being laid on this project from an environmental regulatory standpoint, permitting standpoint, and are we just basically taking what all of these agencies are giving us and figuring and just say, well, just tell us what to do and we'll figure out what it's going to cost, or are we pushing back and figuring out if there's a more effective, efficient, cheaper way to do some of this?
So that's part of this time. Will give us time to push back on what was originally agreed to.
Okay,
So,
yeah, I would be very interested in getting more of an update on this.
Sure, absolutely. I will. I had told the district that would be a likely request.
Okay, I need a motion in a second.
Likewise here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll move it.
And I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Arp, seconded by Commissioner Fromer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 83-1.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item 83 is a request for 7 months time extension. Staff recommends your approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tavaloni and a second, I believe, by Commissioner Dunn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 84, Juan.
Commissioners, item 84 is a request for a 20-month extension by Angel County. The staff is recommending 4 months time extension on that.
Can we have a speaker on this? Todd Remley.
Big difference.
I'll be brief. We could finish that STIP grant in 4 months. Probably. We're waiting on the bus supplier at this moment. We have no idea when the buses or the final bus will show up. It was ordered quite a while ago.
So you can live with the 4-month extension?
I'm sorry?
You can live with the 4-month extension?
We hope so. The bus supplier cannot give us an exact date. Creative Bus.
Yeah, my understanding and talking to staff at the Department Transit, that they're expecting delivery in January.
All right, let's play it by ear. 4-month extension. What's the pleasure of the commission?
So moved.
By Commissioner Semi, seconded by Commissioner Fromer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I need to go back to item 25. There were two speakers, Wendy Alfson and Rai Barge. Are they still here?
Is that 25?
Oh, Wendy.
Commissioners, they've both given me their notes for their comments, and I will send them all to you.
Thank you. All right, now we'll go back to, what number were we on, 25? We had additional speakers, 21. Diana Mahmood. I know.
Good afternoon, Commission. I am the newest member of South Pasadena City Council, and I wish to speak to you very briefly today. It was not my intention to address you, but I think one issue that you have to ask yourself, and I would challenge you to ascertain an answer to, is what is required of Caltrans in order to serve as a lead agency? You may know that there is no memorandum of understanding between Metro and Caltrans, as one would expect in expensing $40 million in consultant fees. What exactly is Caltrans doing presently regarding the preparation of a draft EIR? It takes more than simply a declaration of lead agency status, I submit to you, under CEQA, to so be recognized by California courts, and the same with respect to NEPA and federal courts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mary Lou Hatternock? Echternock.
No, I don't see her. I don't think she's here.
Nope. How about Bill Sherman?
Hello, thank you for listening to me. My name is Dr. Bill Sherman. I'm on the TAC, which is the Technical Advisory Committee, participating in the EIR-EIS. And by that, I get information from CH2M Hill and Metro about what's going on with EIR. And I'm very unhappy and dissatisfied with what I'm being told. They really have biased the study so that the only possible result is going to be a tunnel. They've started off with something they called scoping, where they elicited about 200 various suggestions on how to ease congestion in the study area. Then they went through with a very complex set of criteria, and they ruled out all but the existing 5. They went through a very complex system to do this, and this complex system is biased to select out for the tunnel. After completing this and getting down to 5, now all of a sudden they've sprung on us. Instead of doing 2 bored tunnels, they're going to do a single bored tunnel. Now this single bored tunnel will be half the price, so it becomes very attractive, but it's never undergone any performance analysis. So they're presenting us something at the completion after the alternative analysis is done that has never even been studied, and this is what they give us. I'm not going to talk about the cost analysis because that's never been done. They haven't given us anything about
some other speakers behind
air pollution. I just want to say that the EIR-EIS is biased, not done in a fair manner, and while they can refuse us, eventually there's going to be a person in a black robe, and they won't be able to stonewall that group because the EIR is a flawed study.
Leland Dolly, followed by Richard Hegelson.
I don't see Lee. I don't think Lee's here.
I don't know that Mr. Dolly's here. I'm Richard Helgeson. I'm a former senior assistant city attorney for Los Angeles, followed by 8 years as general counsel of one of the power authorities that's actually providing electricity to this room. But I was involved in a lot of joint projects during my years and years of government service, and I spent 41 years as a government attorney. And in every one of, I've had approximately 30 joint projects. I had a lot of projects with joint powers authorities, including the Alameda Corridor Transportation Authority, which Yvonne Burke, who was on this commission at one time, I actually oversaw. But in all of those, we never had a project that did not have a definitive written agreement, like this one does. You have no agreement, no MOU on all of these things that Metro is doing. You have no written agreement that allocates the responsibilities, defines who is going to do what, and that deals with and addresses contingencies as arise. And I think that seriously, having no direct state control over the environmental review process, as you've pretty much admitted you don't have, seriously implicates concerns over the Federal Highway Administration rules. So thank you very much for hearing me. One last thing, as you go through this informational process, I think I remember the Tom Bradley dream. I was there when Tom Bradley won the mayorship in 1973 as a junior attorney, and he dreamed of a light rail infrastructure throughout Los Angeles County, and I think that's where you should keep your sights on. Thank you very much.
Janice Sohu, followed by Sylvia Plummer.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for your attention. My name is Jan Suhu. I live in the city of La Cañada, Flint Ridge, but today I'm representing the No. 710 Action Committee. I've been involved in this study for about 4 years now, attending all possible public information meetings as well as the technical advisory committee meetings. And I'm here today specifically to present you with a printed copy of an online petition launched by the No. 710 Action Committee urging the removal of the F7X tunnel alternative from the study in favor of better, more fiscally and environmentally responsible solutions. And as of 9 o'clock this morning, we had 1,600 signatures, and I'm hoping that you will consider this an update rather than a conclusion, because our effort to gather more signatures is continuing, and in fact, having just checked the website now, the number has increased just since this morning, and will continue to do so. One other quick thing. You have a red folder that the No. 710 Action Committee has provided with some information and reports. I want to take exception to Barbara Messina's comment that you are being presented today with a lot of misrepresentation and misinformation. In fact, the No. 710 Action Committee prides itself on substantiating any and all information we distribute, and we do that primarily by using the reports issued by Metro and Caltrans on this study. In fact, you will find active links to their reports, URLs listed, bibliographies of their reports. We do not misrepresent anything. We don't need to misrepresent anything to make this seem like a bad project. They do it just fine on their own. And thank you very much. I'll leave this.
Sylvia Plummer and Joanne Knuckles. Thank you. Harry Kapp. Then I think we're done.
Harry Knapp, South Pasadena. I'm a former council member there and a former mayor. I did not grow up in the area. I grew up in upstate New York, so I came to California. I have an engineering degree, actually aeronautical engineering. I can talk rocket science if you want, but this is not rocket science. It's common sense. Anthony Portantino kind of touched on it. What's this going to do for our traffic? Now, Councilmember Messina and current president of the COG is longtime advocate saying it's going to reduce congestion and pollution. It's not going to do either one of those things. I hope all of you are familiar with the Valley Boulevard exit on the 710. People making the right turn there are going through Alhambra. That's an eastward dispersion. It's not a northern dispersion. Who in their right mind going north on the 710 would pay a toll, go through a tunnel, come out on a 210 going east or 134 going west? If you live in Alhambra, if you live in South Pasadena, if you live in San Gabriel, if you live in San Marino, Temple City, and if I lived in Monrovia or Duarte, I'd take Huntington Drive out there. I wouldn't go through a tunnel. And right now, as we speak, the 210 eastbound is a parking lot. Why would you want to put more traffic on there? I don't understand John Fasana. I was on the original board of the COG, and he's been on there ever since. He's a forever councilman at Duarte. Why would he want more traffic on the 210? I can't understand it. It makes no sense. It drives you crazy. There's two environmental things I'd like you to really pay attention to when the EIR comes out. One is there's two health care facilities, one in each portal, North Portal and Huntington Hospital. Whatever they say they're going to mitigate effect on that, please pay attention. On the southern border, there's a company called Grifols. They fractionate human plasma into its components. The berm that's right there coming off on Valley Boulevard, their plant is right abuts, in fact, even rent a building from Caltrans. They are a subsidiary of the second largest fractionator in the world. They're a subsidiary of Grifols SA in Spain. They FDA-controlled clean rooms, and I'll use a hyperbole. FDA doesn't want to see one molecule of dust in those clean rooms. And currently, the design, if you saw that, where that purple line coming down on the freeway, I think that Mr. Felling showed, that's where the bore starts. It's a cut and cover up to there. That is where they plant the boring machine. That's right on the berm. 400 feet long, 200 feet wide hole right next to this plant. So we should hope you, and plus the geological concerns over the aquifers, you're going through earthquake faults, et cetera. Please pay attention to those variables. Thanks.
Thank you. The last part of our meeting's open for public comment. Anyone else care to speak today? I'd like to turn our adjournment over to Fran Inman.
I would like all of you to join me in adjourning our meeting today in honor of Roger Cosberg. Unfortunately, this last fall we lost Roger, but Roger's a former member of the CTC and a founding member of the PIAC Commission and an amazing community and business and civic leader in our region. So we'll adjourn this meeting in honor of Roger Cosberg.
This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
And happy holidays to all of you.
All of you.